All right, well, let's get started. Hey, thanks so much for getting on this webinar. I want to start out by just thanking Miss Diana Zenny, for just taking what she's experienced in her life, turning it into a health passion, and building a group like this, Think Crunchy. I think it's awesome, and excited to be a part of it, and also just excited to share with you guys what it is we do, how we help people, and really honing in on this idea of the gut-brain connection. I started my PowerPoint off with the first slide there, sorry. But yeah, the gut-brain connection, how this connects with autoimmune disorders, IBS, fibromyalgia, fatigue, hormones, chronic illness, and really, you're going to see as we go through this that it really connects back to almost every single health issue. A lot of you have probably heard that the gut is the problem and that leaky gut is causing everybody's problems. And there's the truth to that, but at the same time, it's deeper than that. It's not just that one day we all woke up and we had bad guts. It's a much deeper level. Some of this you might have heard before. A lot of it's going to be new. And yeah, let's just dive into this. Thank you for having me. Being able to share this with the network of amazing people. And I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of you guys coming into our clinic and help some of you in enjoying it. And so I hope to continue to do that. So yeah, so let's dive into this. Just to tell you a little bit about myself. Again, I'm Dr. Kyle Lovelace. I'm a wellness doctor. I work with mostly families when it comes to chiropractic. We see a lot of kids in our office. I'd say over 50% kids, and their families. We also help people like with most chiropractic. When someone thinks of chiropractic, they think of back pain, neck pain, headaches, things like that. And we absolutely do a great job with that. And that's something that across the board chiropractic is known for, because it's one of the easier things to help people with what we do. I think the studies on this, that chiropractic is the only thing that's beaten the placebo when it comes to low back pain. So I think that's pretty cool. And we help a lot of people with those things. But our passion and what our expertise is in, to take it to the next level, is this kind of idea of the gut-brain connection and helping people with things like autoimmune disease, helping people with hormone problems, things that are much deeper chronic health issues that are really hard to figure out. And we know that the medical community so far has kind of failed at helping people in that realm, because they're not getting to the cause or just treating the symptom of inflammation, not figuring out why the body's inflamed. And to tell you a little bit, again, chiropractic, when people think of chiropractic, they think of back pain and neck pain. So some of you might have a really great picture of chiropractic, but you never thought of it as something more than that, right? That it can be deeper than that. And maybe you've heard that, somebody went to a chiropractor and their digestive problems went away. Maybe it was, irritable bowel syndrome or something like that. And you're like, well, how does that connect? And today, I hope to share that with you of how this connects, but also what are the different things you need to do to help yourself if you're dealing with these health issues. And the reason I find myself to be someone that can speak about this isn't just because I've done years of research and studying and working with thousands of patients over the last 16 years with my wife, Dr. Holly. We have patients all over the country, actually all over the world. I'm sorry, we have patients in London. I have a few patients in Australia, one in Madagascar. And these are people with autoimmune disease specifically that we help. And the reason that we see the results that we do in our clinic and with the protocols that we do is because of the approach that we take. For me, I was 4 years old when I first started dealing with psoriasis, which is an autoimmune disease. I remember it was on my elbows, it was on my scalp, it'd get behind my ears, even in my ears. And, I grew up in a medical family, a medically minded family. We didn't know anything about natural health care. My mom took me to the dermatologist. The dermatologist gave me the creams. I put the creams on. They would work for a while, and then those quit working. And I just kind of went down this route of different, this medical merry-go-round of just taking medications to try to get rid of the symptom. And I thought that's what you do. I didn't know there was anything different. And through that process, I also started getting, went through puberty and started getting acne really bad because of the gut issues I didn't know I had, but I had going on. And my acne got so bad, I tried all the different acne medications and ended up on Accutane. If any of you have had Accutane before, it is just a hardcore medication. And it worked. It got rid of my acne, but it also crashed my hormones, caused tons of anxiety. And, I went from this outgoing person playing sports and being around people all the time to not wanting to be around people anymore. Well, in that process, I did start to finally experience the gut issues. When I was in high school, I started getting irritable bowel syndrome. After every soccer game, I would just be bent over in pain in my gut. And Yeah, and I didn't know where else to go with that. Through the process, that also started getting some back pain, and so I went to the orthopedic. I took pain meds, did muscle relaxers. About a year of doing that, having digestive problems, still kind of back and forth with acne, and still having the psoriasis on my arms, my head. Uh, I didn't know what else to do. We didn't have the internet back then where you just research everything and all this was at our fingertips. You just kind of went with what your doctor told you to do, and eventually I was at a soccer practice one day and I was complaining about my back hurting and having to sit out and everything else. And then my coach said, "You need to go to my chiropractor." I never heard what a chiropractor was, or I've never heard the name. Anyways, I went to his chiropractor, and this guy did the same thing and similar things that the orthopedic did in the beginning, but then he had a whole different viewpoint on what was actually happening in my body. And he taught me about my nervous system, he taught me about my spine. He started to take care of me and adjust my spine. Within 6 visits, my back pain was completely gone. I continued on. I got rid of the irritable bowel syndrome through this process. It was many years later, through chiropractic or nutrition and all the stuff that we teach now, that my psoriasis went away. When I was actually 34 years old, it just disappeared and it hasn't been back. Um, so I've been through that process of having to deal with autoimmune disease, but I've also been through that process of having to investigate and figure out what the answer is. So in our clinic, the way we see things and the way we help people is through a different paradigm. By the way, this is my family, Dr. Holly, myself, and my kids, Isabel, Eleanor, and William. I thought it'd be cool to share them. So if you see them around town or anything, say hi. Or in the clinic. But again, we get the results that we do in our clinic because of the philosophy that we look at. We see it at this idea of salutogenesis, which is create. Salute means create. Salute means health, and genesis, which means create. And so we believe that the human body, that our bodies were powerfully made, that don't need help healing, that they were made to be healthy. And there's nothing from the outside that we're going to take that's going to make us healthy. It's that our body just simply needs no interference to its innate ability to heal itself. It knows how to do that. Whereas, the other kind of model, the medical model, says you need something to take. You need them to take or inject something into your body for you to be healthy. And they focus on treating disease. We focus on helping the human body adapt in its environment so that it can be in homeostasis and heal itself, because that's what we were made to do. And that is truthfully the only way you can get healthy, is to do that, is get your body in balance. You can cover up symptoms, but you can never be healthy unless you're actually in that homeostatic place where your nervous system is balanced and your body's functioning and healing at a really high level. And that takes us to the gut stuff, is that if you're stressed and you're in a sympathetic nervous system response, you're not going to digest food very well. And so I'm getting ahead of myself, but through today's webinar, I'm going to be sharing some stories. I'm just going to go ahead and get my picture out of here if it's okay with you guys. It's just in the way, or my video. I'm going to be sharing some stories with you guys, and it's not to just say, hey, look at the symptom change, or look at the cool results we got with this patient, or the things they've seen in life, but it's because stories are testimonials. Testimonials are what make a difference in people's lives, in my opinion. I believe that our testimony makes a huge difference, and so hearing the testimonies of these patients, I think, will make a big difference in your life, knowing that there's a possibility and that these things don't have to be forever. And so this is the Hill family. Kelly, the mom, first came into our clinic with migraine headaches, and she's been suffering with them her whole life. And went under care. We went through chiropractic care, nutritional care, did the stuff that we do in our office. Her migraines went away. And I know I went through that really quickly. And the reason I did is because we see migraines go away all the time. And it seemed crazy to her that we could get them to go away that fast, but we did. But the reason I'm showing this story is because of her daughter, Zoe. After her migraines went away, she sent Zoe in, her daughter, which was 4 years. She was 5 years old at the time. And Zoe had been diagnosed at this time with juvenile arthritis. So this is an autoimmune disease that is pretty much like rheumatoid arthritis, but in kids. And she'd been to her primary care doctor. Her joints were all swollen. She was in pain all the time. She couldn't ride her scooter with her brother. These are the things I remember her telling me on her first visit. She wasn't able to play outside with her other friends because she was just in pain. So, of course, her parents took her to the primary care. He ended up sending them to the rheumatologist. The rheumatologist did the testing, diagnosed her with juvenile arthritis. And imagine that, 5 years old, and you get told your child has juvenile arthritis. I mean, that's severe. And he rated her on the scale at 18. He said she's at an 18 right now. If we can, with these medications we're going to do, if we can get her down to an 11, that'll be a success within the next year. And that sounds cool, right? Let's try to get rid of the problem. And the medical doctor, the problem is, and I'm going to talk a lot about them versus us, and the reason I'm doing that is not because I have anything against them, it's just the paradigm, and I think it's really good to go back and forth to understand there's a huge difference in kind of the sick care system versus this true healthcare and wellness system that we do. And so he said she's at an 18, if we can get her to 11, that'll be good. And so he put her on methotrexate, and he put her on another anti-inflammatory drug. And because his question that he's asking, the medical community are asking this question of how do we get rid of the inflammation? There's no question that we all know that it's an inflammatory issue and that inflammation is part of the problem, but they're saying how do we get rid of the inflammation? And so, of course, if you ask that question, you're going to go with things that get rid of inflammation, which is these medicines. By the way, methotrexate is a chemotherapy drug. So this little 5-year-old was on a chemotherapy drug when she came into our clinic. When she came to our office, though, I looked at it differently. My question is, why is her body creating this constant inflammatory response? Inflammation is a normal, innate response our body does to respond to stressors in our life. Gives our body, our immune system, a chance to heal us and help us function better. So inflammation is absolutely necessary. It's a great thing. It's what allows us to live and recuperate, regenerate, and be healthy. But for her, it was a non-stop inflammatory response. So the question I have is, why is that happening? I don't go with it, oh, it's an autoimmune disease. Okay, great. Why is her body creating that autoimmune disease to her joints? And we know that some of this can be genetic SNPs, but it's still, and we also know it's environmentally driven to trigger this thing to go off. And so we started tests. We did chiropractic testing. So I did our normal workup, full range of motion, palpation, feeling her spine, taking her through certain movements and posture evaluations. We took x-rays of her spine. She had no curve in her neck, which is very common with autoimmune disease. And then we did testing outside the clinic. She did a stool analysis, GI mapping testing. We did food allergy testing. And we started some protocols. So for the first month, all we did was chiropractic care as we're waiting for the test results to get back. And she started to learn some new nutritional changes. Got the testing back, started the protocols with what we saw in her gut, which was a lot of inflammation. And 4 months into this process, she goes back to her rheumatologist. Now, keep in mind, the last 4 months, she has not taken a single medication. She goes back to her rheumatologist at the end of that 4 months, and I want you to guess what that number is. It used to be an 18, and they wanted to get her to 11. Well, when they got there, he diagnosed, he did his testing and everything and said, well, I guess, I don't know what you guys just did, but keep doing it. Because she's at a 0. And she did not have any markers. Her inflammatory response was calmed down. And the truth is that he didn't want to know what we were doing. They started telling him, it's not what I do, but just keep doing what you're doing if it's working. And so the thing I like about this story is it's a very good picture of how well our body is made to heal. It's not a death sentence. Now, when she went to elementary school and she started kindergarten 2 years later, she had a lot of stress starting, or 1 year later, she had a lot of stress, and guess what flared back up? The autoimmune response started flaring back up, and so we had to really deep dive back into helping her handle stress and getting through that process, and it calmed back down. So it's something she'll have to continue to work on, but the truth is that her body has the ability to heal. And this little boy here, Mason, he's a patient. This little baby wasn't there when Zoe first came in, but obviously is now, and she's a patient. And then Matt, the husband, had asthma and scoliosis. When we started adjusting him, his asthma has decreased and he's able to play sports again and run. I remember him and I went on a mile run, and he said I would have never been able to do that before starting care at your office. So just really cool family stories that we just love to share. And hopefully that inspires you that, hey, this chiropractic thing, what I'm going to teach you today is much more than back pain and neck pain. So if you have that in your mindset that that's what it is, kind of set that aside for now, because your open mindset is going to help you a lot in this webinar, and you're going to learn a ton. Now, I have a lot of stuff to share with you guys. I got more information than I can share, and just researching some of these things over the years. But these are the kind of articles, the books, the things I'm taking a lot of what I'm teaching to you in this workshop. Okay, so there's a lot, but this is a good starting point. Okay, so today we're going to talk about what's going on in the world in terms of autoimmune disease and gut health. We're going to talk about why it's happening, and we're going to talk about what is actually next, what we're going to do about it. So autoimmune disorders, and whether you have an autoimmune disease or not, gut health is something, and brain health is something you need to focus on. But there is a genetic predisposition to these things. But there's over 100 plus autoimmune diseases, and that just right there, that there's diagnosed 100 plus autoimmune diseases, tells us that they're missing the boat. that it's not just by naming a bunch of these things that we're going to get people healthy, and it's not by just blocking the immune response with immunosuppressants that we're going to get people healthy. 50 million Americans have autoimmune disorders. $100 billion per year is being spent just on autoimmune disease. The Autoimmune Epidemic book, really cool book. If you have an autoimmune disease, worth reading. But she showed here, while 1 in 69 women below the age of 50 will be diagnosed with breast cancer, it's actually going to be 1 in 9 of women will be diagnosed with autoimmune illness, and that's just childbearing years. So this is an epidemic, no doubt about it. It's bigger than cancer. I know we have the war on cancer, but we're seeing a whole lot more of these autoimmune diseases ramping up right now. Okay, and then also you get anxiety that comes along with having these health issues from the inflammation in the body, and that's 18% of our population now has anxiety. We hire a lot more in terms of like interviewing people and trying to grow our team, and one of the craziest things you see is that almost everybody out there is on anti-anxiety meds now, and same thing with seeing patients. Is one of the number one medications we'll see patients on. And that's just fear. We're living in fear of the future because our biochemistry is off, because of unmet expectations we've had in life, and just all the things in our body and environment that are affecting this. I started having severe anxiety with Accutane, and so I get what it feels like. It's awful, but it's not something we should be dealing with, and definitely not something we should just be medicating. 9 million kids, 1 out of 8, have anxiety disorders, and then you got depression. 107 million Americans have at least one of 6 chronic health issues, and $2.3 trillion is what this is going to have as an economic burden on chronic disease. $2.3 trillion, not million or billion, $1 trillion. So guys, if this makes sense to you, what I'm teaching you today, acting on it and doing stuff to change this is the only way this is going to change. If we keep doing what everyone else is doing, follow the same diet that we've been taught or that we've been doing our whole lives, living the same lifestyle, not investigating different ways of taking care of ourselves, then we're just going to keep getting what we're getting. If we follow the science, as you hear about on TV, and just do what we're told over and over again in terms of the medical model, we're going to keep getting sicker and sicker because they're the cause of a lot of this stuff. That's what the studies are showing us. So we're 5% of the world's population in America. We take 75 to 80% of the world's medications. We know that if those were the answer to our health, we'd be the healthiest country in the world because we do more of it than anyone else. But we're the sickest country right now. America is the sickest country in the industrialized world, and we have to shift. We have to make a change in how we're thinking. We got to think differently. And some of you, you're think crunchy, right? You're thinking differently already. But I want to hit this home that, I have a lot of naturally minded moms and kids in our clinic. But still, when there's a fever, when there's some sort of an infection, we just can't help ourselves but to want to go back straight to the meds so quickly, or ear infections and things like that. And I'm here to tell you that, so those kids, my kids that you saw in the beginning, my oldest is 7, and I have a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. And they have, our 4-year-old has Down syndrome, so we have a natural medical doctor, Dr. Anne-Marie Temple, that we work with. But our other 2 have never been to a medical doctor. They've never had an ear infection. They've had a couple fevers that lasted a day or maybe 2 days at the most. They've thrown up before, but they've never really been sick, like what we think of sick. They don't have any of these anxieties, they don't have depression, they don't have all this stuff, that allergies, all these things you see kids having today. And I truly believe it's because we think differently. We've been adjusting. Our kids have gotten chiropractic care every week. They've been adjusted every week since they've been born. And they just haven't had these things. They don't take medications. They don't do tons of vaccines. Or they don't do any vaccines. They've never had a chemical in their body other than what might be in the environment. We've never intentionally given them those things. And I'm not saying that to say that we're right and everybody else is wrong. I'm saying that to show that it works. We have so many families that do the same thing and their kids are healthy. They're not seeing all the health issues that we're dealing with in the world today. So hopefully, just the fact that is a thing, and that people are doing this, being healthy all the way through, not just diet, not just exercising, but what they're putting in their bodies in terms of staying away from medications and chiropractic care and things like that are just super effective. So if we want to get something different, we have to think differently. We have to ask different questions about what we're doing. And so I like to use this kind of idea right here of mechanical systems in comparison with the body. So if you want to know, what is health? Well, health is how well you're functioning. So what allows this car to work? What allows this car to function? What does it have to have? What are the things this car has to have in order to run? Well, first, obviously, it has to have parts and it has to have gas, it has to have power or electricity, right? So those parts and power, without it, you start to take away parts, you're going to mess up the car. You don't have enough power, it's not going to work. And so we get that, but the one thing we kind of forget about is there's one other thing this car has to have in order to drive. It's got to have some sort of input, some sort of information. Right? Either somebody has to get in there and push the gas pedal, or AI technology, I guess, has to run this vehicle, but there has to be information telling this vehicle to actually run. Okay, so it needs parts, it needs fuel. Right? We have our body parts we're always working on with different doctors. We have nutrition and things we're trying to put in our body. But what is the information that actually runs our body? We're going to talk some about that. Same thing, computers. You have to have parts, you have to have power, and you have to have the information. Without the information, there's just a product. There's nothing in there will actually make it run until you tell it what to do. And so the same thing with the human body. What does the human body need to function? Well, human systems or living systems need parts, they need power, and they need information. And so that information, we have lots of power parts doctors, we have lots of fortunately, we have a whole lot more power doctors now, a lot more nutritionists and people talking about nutrition and how we eat. The medical community's finally coming around on that, but it's not that they're taught it in school, they just realize it has to happen. But there's still a lot of doctors out there, so it doesn't matter what you eat, especially cancer doctors. They'll tell their patients, don't worry about what you eat, it doesn't matter. But we know that what we eat is big. And we talk about that, like what we eat is what we become, but the truth is actually the information that runs through our body is what we become. The power, the food we eat feeds it so that the systems work so that can happen. But the information is this innate intelligence that's inside our body from when two cells come together, right? Under consummation, when two cells come together, they burst into these multiple different cells, and then eventually the brain is formed, and out the brain comes the spinal nerves and the spinal cord and the spinal nerves, and they're like branches from a tree. They go to every organ, every tissue, every cell in our body. And from that moment on, that's what runs our body. And so our body has this innate ability to heal and to function. And how well that information gets from the brain to the organ system, or from the organ system to the brain, telling us of what's happening in our body, will decide how healthy that human body is. And I can prove this to you because we talk about, we have to have these certain things to be healthy. Everyone knows there's three main things we have to be healthy. So just think to yourself, what are the three things that we've always been told we have to be healthy? Number one, we've been told we have to have nutrition. We have to eat healthy. Makes sense? We have to exercise to be healthy. And then finally, we got to get enough sleep and recovery to be healthy. Well, I'm going to challenge this because here's the thing. Have you ever known someone that drinks, does everything wrong, smokes, doesn't eat healthy at all, drinks Diet Coke every day, and then they live to 110? They never exercise, live to 110 years of age, 105 years of age. There's a few YouTube videos, one for Dr. Pepper on her 104th birthday, saying that the reason she made it to 104 is because she drank Dr. Pepper every day. There's one for whiskey, there's one for Diet Coke. And the truth of the matter is it's not just about eating good, exercising, and sleeping. Are those important? Absolutely. Because, hey, if you eat like junk, your likelihood is less. But the truth is that's not what health is. Okay, so let me just repeat that. Health is not that you eat good, it's not that you exercise, and it's not that you just get enough sleep. All those things are important and have their roles, but they're not what decide health. Right? Health, by definition, is this right here. A state of optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmities. And I like this definition best. A condition of wholeness to which all of the organs are what? Functioning at 100% of the time. It's that the organs are functioning and you're healing properly. That person drinks, they smoke, they do everything wrong. They lived to 104 because they were still functioning and healing. Their body was detoxing. And the processes that run the body, the information that goes through their body, was still moving at a high percentage to heal the body. If someone takes eats organic food and exercises daily and gets great sleep and takes their great supplements, they meditate, they do all these things, but then they get cancer when they're 50, it's because the opposite was happening. Their body the information wasn't getting through clearly. Their body wasn't connected all the way through, and the brain-body connection was dysfunctional. And that's what builds disease. Was when our body can no longer heal itself because of some sort of interference, whether it's not detoxing properly, we get heavy metal or chemical buildup, whether it's whether it was damage that created that the toxins or the stress, the physical stress or the emotional stress created, that now our body is not in a healing state anymore. But it all goes back to how well our body is functioning and healing. And so if functioning and healing is what decides how healthy we are, then we have to look at first, before anything else, we have to look at what controls all the functioning and healing in your body. And we know without a shadow of a doubt, according to Gray's Anatomy, the book, according to all the anatomy stuff, we know that the nervous system runs everything. It tells your heart to beat, it tells your lungs to breathe, it tells your stomach to digest food. All these systems that you see surrounding the nervous system, it literally is sending the information to every organ, tissue, cell in our body, running our body. Now, are these other organ systems important? Absolutely. You start to have damage to the gut and you don't have proper nerve flow to the gut. Now the gut isn't absorbing things that help run the nervous system, and we start to have breakdowns. So they're all important, but it goes back to the nervous system. And this is precisely why we can't just go to a cardiologist, or we can't just go to a GI doctor or a dermatologist or whatever. It's so hard to keep up with all these names. The point is that our body is one big system, not separate systems. Now, if you have an emergency and you're having a heart attack, go to a cardiologist. Because this idea of different systems and having doctors for different systems is amazing for emergency care, which is what our sick care system is, and it's great at that. But it's very unhealthy to do when it comes to trying to be healthy, because we don't focus on, if you focus on this, when it gets your blood pressure down, we don't think about how it affects your hormones or how it affects your digestion now, and so on. Okay? And so remember, the nervous system controls everything. So this is called the gut-brain quadrangle. Okay? We talk about how, just going back here one step. So the one thing that will interfere with this system, will put clogs in these wheels where they don't run anymore. There's one main thing that creates all this, and it goes back to stress. Okay? You can see over here, environmental stressors. Okay? We think of stress and we think mental, emotional. Yes, those are real, and those are very big. But stress is also physical, it's also chemical, and it's mental, emotional, and our body does not know the difference. Okay, and so environmental stress is what creates the interference, is the starting point. And now our body has to respond to these physical, chemical, and emotional stresses. And depending on how well this nervous system is functioning and how well the information is getting to all your organs, tissues, and cells, including the gut, including the immune response, including your detox pathways in the cells in the liver, will decide how well our body will actually break this down. And so it's how well are these systems working, at the same time, how well, or what are our genetics like? So we got genetic predisposition plus the functioning and healing of all these systems that is ultimately ran by the nervous system. So if you say, okay, I want to be healthy, I want to get rid of my autoimmune disease, we can't get rid of an autoimmune disease or calm it completely unless we address the nervous system, unless we address the gut, unless we now start to support and work with the immune response, and unless we address the detox pathways in the body. It's not because you've had too many toxins, it's because your body's not getting rid of those toxins. It's not because you just genetically predisposed, it's because your system isn't functioning properly, and now the genetics are kicked into gear. They call them genetic SNPs, and now you're going to start to see disease, or what I call dis-ease, or we call them symptoms. And those are just simply your body saying, hey, there's a problem here. Your system is breaking down, and it starts to show you these systems, or these symptoms. Okay, so symptoms aren't necessarily inherently bad. It's just that they're there, and we don't want to treat the symptom. We want to go back to the body right here. So we want to go back and look at the nervous system, strengthen the body, and remove the unnecessary stressors. So let me repeat that. We don't want to treat the symptoms. You can tell me whatever health issue you have. It might give me an idea of what's happening in the body, but it's not what we're treating. We're going to work with strengthening your body. We're not even treating the body. We're going to strengthen the body, work on strong, healthy nervous system, healthy immune response, healthy GI tract, healthy detox pathways, and then we're going to reduce as much physical, chemical, emotional stress as we can, while at the same time getting your body the nutrients and minerals it needs and reducing the stress in our diet, and your body will heal itself. I'm not saying your body might heal itself. If you do what I just said there, your body will heal itself. That's what it's made to do. It's just like gravity. If you drop a pin, it goes to the ground. It's just how it's a law of nature. If our body is adapting properly, it will heal itself. And so that's the key. We got to get your body back into adaptation mode. All right, so we're going to talk about the gut, and then we're going to talk about the nervous system and bring it all together. All right, so we got the gut. It contains 100 trillion bacteria of 100 trillion bacteria of 500 to 1,000 different species. 90% of the body's serotonin comes from the GI tract and some of this good bacteria. 70% of your immune cells are in your GI tract. Crucial, guys, it's crucial that we have a healthy GI tract. Now, does that mean all we need to focus on is your gut because 90% of our serotonin comes from there, or 70% of our immune response is there? Is all we need to do is take probiotics, or all we need to do is take supplements that will heal the leaky gut? No. Those are all good parts of protocols, or I don't even say protocols. Those are good parts of a healthy way of doing things to heal the gut, but it's not how we heal the gut. You heal the gut, again, by getting your body back in balance, getting the information flowing properly so that your body will heal itself. Okay, absolutely, we need to restore good bacteria and things like that. But essentially, it goes back to how well your body is functioning and healing. All right, we have genetic predispositions, chronic environmental stressors. These chronic environmental stressors are going to be things like C-sections. We know that C-section babies have a different microbiome. They have a different gut altogether because they miss the vaginal canal where they get good bacteria. They miss breastfeeding a lot of times. If a mom's not breastfeeding, then we don't get good bacteria. So the birthing process is the starting point for a good, healthy GI tract and really a good, healthy body in general. Antibiotics, we know tons of antibiotic use, whether it's from the mom before baby's born or during or after birth. The baby has antibiotics. We know that that is destroying not only our microbiome in our gut, but our skin, our oral microbiome, and throughout the body, leading to cancers and other stuff. Medications and drugs obviously affect that. Poor diet. So if someone's on a lot of medication, it's really hard to have a healthy gut because it's constantly stressing the gut out. Poor diet, chronic stress, alcohol, altered vagal tone. We're going to talk a lot about altered vagal tone, and that is that your vagus nerve, your parasympathetic nervous system, is functioning to heal your body. Okay, that leads on to leaky gut. I lost my thing there. Okay, and then leaky gut. Chronically, we have a leaky gut. You start getting autoimmune disease, brain inflammation, multiple different health issues, tons of allergies. There's a reason we have so many allergies right now, guys, and it goes back to this idea of the body is not healing itself and it's being bombarded in the GI tract. Eventually, that can lead to a leaky brain where a lot of stuff will get past the blood-brain barrier and create all kinds of things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, and some of these major upper neurological issues that we see. Okay, some symptoms that are associated with, so you get a leaky gut. Now, what starts all this? So the starting point, I believe, of a leaky gut in terms of GI tract is stomach acid. Having proper stomach acid will prevent a lot of the leaky gut issues because our stomach acid will break stuff down. But some of the symptoms of someone that has a leaky gut are going to be all the things you see here: bloating, belching, indigestion, diarrhea, constipation, chronic fatigue, acne, multiple food sensitivities, iron and B12 deficiencies. You don't have to have all of these, but I'm seeing more and more people with acid issues, and if we don't address the stomach acid along with the leaky gut, we typically aren't going to get anywhere. Okay, so what is a leaky gut? A leaky gut is where the cell wall of our mucus in the gut is, instead of being tight like you see here, it is gapped open. They call them gap junctions, where it opens up and you start getting things into the bloodstream that aren't supposed to be in there. When these proteins get into the bloodstream, it creates an immune response. Just like if a viral protein got in our blood system, it's going to create an immune response, and our body tags it with antibodies. Okay, and that's how we do things like food allergy testing. We're looking for antibodies. So our body tags it with these antibodies, and in return, we get a leaky gut. And now these things get into the system. They create chronic inflammation over time. And that's where eventually this autoimmune disease and a lot of the other health issues we have come in. Okay, so leaky gut's a big deal. We get that. There's a lot of things you need to do for it. It's not just a simple top 7 process. You do these 7 things and it's healed. But these are absolutes. So I put the 7 things that you absolutely want to do without a shadow of a doubt. You want to avoid these things on the left. Okay, just take a picture of that. The conventional meats, the conventional dairy, vegetable oil, GMO foods, gluten, grains, oxalates, because these things are constantly stressing out our body, but they're stressing out the GI tract. And so we need properly raised meats. We need the things on the right side. Things that are very helpful for healing the gut lining. Our bone broth, very good for our IgA levels and our mucus lining in the gut. Raw cultured organic dairy, especially things like, I'm trying to think of the name of it now. I'll come back to me. Colostrum, I'm sorry. Especially things like colostrum, supplementing colostrum is great for the IgA levels and mucus lining of the gut. Fermented vegetables can be helpful. Coconut products are amazing. Different sprouted seeds, organic grass-fed, and beef and lamb. Properly raised animals. Animals that are raised the way they were supposed to be raised is the key. And don't veer away. The people that don't eat meat, that just go vegan, I've seen more gut problems, more homocysteine and inflammatory problems for them than I have for any of our other patients. And the patients that have gotten to quit just eating meat or just eating vegetables, all those things change. So I'm a huge believer, just from research, but also from working with patients over the last 15 years, that meat is very important. So right here, these are your starting points. Remove the left, add the right in, and that's a good starting point. Okay, so again, we talked about the nervous system. Now we're going to deep dive into the nervous system. We know the gut's important, but there's something even more important that runs it and that has to be addressed as well. And this is the missing link that most people forget. They don't go after this, and they're always stuck going back and forth with these gut problems. The nervous system controls everything in the body according to Gray's Anatomy, the book. Okay, it's literally the missing link, and specifically the vagus nerve is what connects the brain to the digestive system, and it does that through our autonomic nervous system. The vagus nerve, you can see right up here, it's right up there, the brainstem, right above the top bone of the neck. It goes to every organ, or the majority of organs in our body. It tells our body to relax, digest food, sleep, all those things. Another great, cool, really fun story for you guys. This is Jennifer, and Jennifer is actually about to be, I think she is a chiropractor now. I think she finally graduated chiropractic school. But when I first met her, I was actually teaching at a company. I was doing lunch and learn for a company, and she was at that company, and she was in PA school, physician's assistant, but she was putting it on hold because of her digestive issues. Her stomach acid, her acid reflux would get so bad when she was in PA school that she finally had to put it on hold. And she was doing the medical route of things, taking the meds and all those things, and nothing was helping her. And when I spoke, it made a lot of sense. So she came into our clinic, and I went through the whole initial consult with her, all the evaluations that we do. I took x-rays. I sat down with her and said, okay, here's what's happening. As we showed her x-rays of her spine, how messed up that was, multiple areas of subluxation. And I came up with a game plan. I said, okay, we're going to do chiropractic care 3 times a week, and in 12 visits, we're going to reevaluate. At the same time, let's get a stool test out, let's get some food allergy testing out, and let's start working on that. And she said, okay, that sounds great. Actually, Dr. Kyle, can I just do the nutritional aspect and the testing and not do the chiropractic part? I'm a little nervous about that. I'm nervous about getting my neck adjusted and all those things. I said, yeah, I get that. I completely understand. But here's the thing. I've seen too many people get better from acid reflux with chiropractic care that I wouldn't imagine doing this without it. We got to do it. And so I said, I'll walk you through that. We'll do it calm and chill, and I'll walk you through everything, and it'll be okay. And so we did chiropractic care. She agreed. We started chiropractic care within a month. This is before we got the testing back. She made some nutritional changes. Within a month, the acid reflux was gone. She hadn't had acid reflux since the first week. So we did a re-exam, and I said, okay, let's continue. We're going to do another around 12 visits because we're not quite there with your spine yet, because we do re-x-rays to make sure we're getting the structural change. And because we do spinal corrective care, it's a little bit different. And she said, cool. I just want to do the nutritional part now. I said, okay. So she started doing the nutritional aspect, and within that next month, all her acid reflux had come back. Because all she was doing that was working on her gut nutritionally and with some of the lifestyle stuff. And so she came back in, we sat down, she said, my acid reflux is back. I said, can we start chiropractic care again? She started chiropractic care again, acid reflux went away. She was blown away. She said, this is it. I'm not going to PA school, I'm going to chiropractic school. And now she's going to be helping thousands of other people throughout her career, and she's going to do amazing. I mean, energy levels back up, all the stuff that comes back when you get your gut in a good, healthy place. And I share that story because she had no idea. Chiropractic didn't make sense to her in terms of what I'm talking about right now until she actually experienced it. So sometimes it's just experiencing that. But we see it every day in our clinic. Gut issues going away like crazy. It's a lot of fun. So here's a picture of the nervous system. What a lot of people don't realize, when we think of pinched nerves or damage to the nervous system, we think of pain. And this is the biggest misconception, because this picture here on the right, these are all the nerves in our body that cause pain. Okay, it's about 9% of our nervous system, not 99% of our nervous system. We actually feel that. Okay, but over here is the part of our nervous system that we have no feeling whatsoever. Okay, and so this is your what we call the autonomic nervous system. It acts without you thinking about it. And your brain sends signals down the spinal cord, that goes out to individual nerves, and that tells the tissues and the cells to do what they're supposed to do. It gives the signal, and then the tissues and cells send a signal back, and the brain responds. And so it's a constant feedback loop, but there's no feeling in this, okay? And I say there's no feeling in this because if you had issues in the upper part of your neck, which the majority of people have issues in the upper part of your neck, we're a sitting world. We sit at computers all the time. We've had accidents and injuries. We're on our cell phones all the time. We sleep in our stomachs. We've been born in a medical system that goes against gravity with C-sections and vacuums and all these other things that could damage the upper neck. We just have a lot of upper cervical issues, and it affects the vagus nerve, this autonomic nervous system, and keeps the body from balancing out properly because it creates a chronic stress in our body, a physical stress. And so the problem is when you have that, you don't always feel it. But the truth is that if it's affecting that area, you'll notice it once you see the symptoms. You just don't know it's coming from your neck. So your symptoms might be sinus problems and allergies that can start with the upper part of the neck. It might be ear infections all the times for kids because the sinuses aren't draining because of problems in the upper neck. Our number one referral source from pediatricians is for ear infections. It might be because of their gut issue, the constipation, because they don't feel the problem in the upper neck, but it's affecting the vagus nerve and they're constipated all the time. And I hope you catch my drift here is that each one of these areas, look where these nerves go to. They run the organs. If you cut one of those nerves, that organ system stops. It is literally the electricity going. It's no different than hitting a light switch and the light's going out. And so we don't really feel it. And so most people don't think, oh, I got to work on my nervous system, on my spine. I got to work with that system that runs my body to actually heal my body. We think, I just need to work on the fuel. I just need to work on the power. The food that I eat is what matters the most. Exercising enough is what matters the most. Strengthening my muscles is what matters the most. And those are all important, but they don't start until we work on the nervous system. And you can see the spinal function, these nerves, C1 and all the areas it goes to. You can see the possible symptoms that happen with that and all the way through. The number one area, by the way, we'll see with acid reflux is actually right in here, in this T5, over here, T5, T6 area, which comes out and it goes to the gastric esophageal sphincter, which when that doesn't close, it's a muscle that has to close, and that the nerve innervation's off, it doesn't close and you can't get constant acid reflux. So one of the easiest things we'll see get to disappear is things like digestive issues like constipation, acid reflux, things like that. And it makes sense from this chart here. All right, so the autonomic nervous system, we got two parts. We have the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. We've heard of this. We've heard of the fight or flight or freeze. That's the stress response nervous system. And we've heard of the relax, digest food, sleep, reproduce, things like that. The sympathetic, this is the fight or flight zone. Think of it this way. Think of it like you're walking down a dark alley and all of a sudden somebody jumps out at you. But what happens physiologically? Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your cholesterol will actually start to increase up if it stays there long enough because your body needs it for healing. Cholesterol is needed to produce cortisol, which tells us to fight or flight. Your thyroid is going to slow down, your immune response is going to slow down, your gut is going to come to a halt. You don't need to digest food right now. Your reproductive system, we talk about hormones, your reproductive system and all those hormones that are connected there are going to slow down and decrease because you don't need that. You need to survive right now. Okay? And what's happening in our world today, when you get out of that dark alley, you should relax, get back to homeostasis, and your parasympathetic nervous system kicks back in and you heal and you go back into balance. But what's happening in our world today is we're getting stuck in that sympathetic response because of all the different stressors in our environment, from the foods we eat, the chemicals in our world, to the emotional and mental stresses that we have, from computers and internet and social media and all the stuff that we have now that we didn't have before, is creating chronic stressors, and eventually that's where it shuts down. And so this parasympathetics, this is why when we start adjusting the sacrum and we start adjusting the upper part of the neck and taking care of this, along with teaching good nutrition and lifestyle changes, people get pregnant. I just had a text today that a good friend of mine sent his wife in here, and she's had 12 visits. We just did our first re-exam, and I got a text today that she's pregnant. That same thing happened 2 weeks ago with another patient, 12 weeks visits in. I have a really cool video at the end of a patient, the same thing. And so it's very common that people get pregnant when they're trying to get pregnant through chiropractic care because of this parasympathetic nervous system. people's periods come back, their cycle. I've had patients who hadn't had a cycle in a year, or period in a year, and they all of a sudden comes back and back to normal when they start getting adjusted. And it's not because of the adjustment, it's because we helps calm the nervous system. All right, signs you have autonomic imbalance. You got low parasympathetics, or you have the high sympathetics on the right, which is you're in fight or flight response. If you stay there long enough, you become wired and tired, irritable, anxiety. And if any of these things ring home to you, you're in this place. Poor sleep, insomnia, diarrhea, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. Stays there long enough, becomes really chronic, and we get this low parasympathetic tone. You get constipation, depression, chronic fatigue, memory loss, memory issues, immune compromised, brain fog, adrenal fatigue, thyroid problems. Guys, look at these symptoms. This is what the world is dealing with right now, and it all goes back to this nervous system. And to show you, well, let me tell you this story here in a second, but to show you it's not just me saying this. This is what all the experts are saying right now, is that it all goes back to this vagus nerve. Medicine's trying to figure it out. Everybody's trying to figure it out. I'm telling you, it's all about getting your nervous system in balance. This patient is Alec, a friend of ours now, but he came in as a patient with ankylosing spondylitis. And this started after having the COVID vaccine. He had the COVID vaccine, he kicked everything into gear. That led to his predisposition for ankylosing spondylitis. His family members have had stuff like this in the past. And severe pain is where your spine's literally fusing together. And he was told by his doctors to never see a chiropractor, but he did otherwise. And we started to adjust him. We did chiropractic care, did some nutritional work with him, did some gut work with him. And this is his Google review, but I mean, so much more happened, from gut healing to astral reflex calming, pain, being out of pain, and just really lowering this overall autoimmune response. It's pretty cool. And it's because we work with the nervous system, not just the gut. So the medical answer to this is what they call vagus nerve stimulation, where they actually put an implant to stimulate your vagus nerve. And we know how important this vagus nerve is. And it says the vagus nerve activity is a proponent. Well, let me read it from the top. The vagus nerve comprises a bundle of approximately 80% afferent, which is sensory fibers, and 20% motor fibers, which is what tells something to work. Afferent is what what your body's responding, what your body's experiencing in its environment. The efferent is how it's responding to it. Okay, so majority is how we're experiencing our environment. And so if there's any dysfunction there, our brain experiences the environment as stressful. In return, it responds with a stressful response, if that makes sense. Okay, which control essential organ functions, including gastrointestinal motility, secretion, and heart rate. Vagus nerve activity is a component of several homeostatic axes, including the cholinergic, anti-inflammatory pathways. So we talk about inflammation in the vagus nerve, the brain-gut axis, and the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenic axis. Sorry, that was a mouthful. But you get the point, is that it runs this response. Okay? The study says the vagus nerve has an anti-inflammatory properties. It is given its position as a key element to the autonomic nervous system, the brain-gut interaction. In irritable bowel disease, the vagus nerve seems to be a good therapeutic target in inflammatory conditions of the digestive tract, but also things like RA and other autoimmune diseases. Okay, this is from the Journal of Physiology. Again, altered vagal tone, autonomic dysfunction, a predictive factor of risk to develop rheumatoid arthritis. And you can see this: multiple sclerosis, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus. All these things go back, and the research is connecting to all of them for the vagus nerve response. Same thing, fibromyalgia, Parkinson's. Okay, so what do we do about that? Well, here's the natural approach. Okay, the vagus nerve stimulation is the medical approach. This is the natural approach. You start to do things you know you can do at home. I give our patients, we have 40 different things we've listed out. If you want that, just email me at lovelesshealthsolutions.com. I'm sorry, lovelesshealthsolutions@gmail.com. And I'll send you over 40 different things you can do to help balance stress in your life and the nervous system. But number one, social relationships, cold water therapy, like ice baths, reducing electromagnetic frequencies and screen time, reducing social media, singing, chanting, humming, and laughter are all big ones. Massage, yoga, and Tai Chi, breathing and deep breathing work. So breathing techniques that help with it. and the right type of exercise, meaning not over exercising. And then finally, the one that we use extensively in our clinic because we get the best results using it is chiropractic care. And again, I mentioned in the beginning that I have patients all over the world. I don't do chiropractic care with those patients. We do functional health stuff with them. We do testing, we do blood work, we do nutrition, we do lifestyle changes and things like that to help them with their autoimmune disease, and we get great results doing it. But there's one thing I always recommend with every single one of them, and the ones that do this get the best results without a shadow of a doubt, and it's that they go get chiropractic care somewhere. And so I help find them someone near them, and the people that can't find it or just don't, they take longer to get better. They're not helping to balance the nervous system. I've seen more changes with the chiropractic than anything else. And you can see chiropractic and vagal tone, these 3 studies, 4 studies right here, or 3 studies right here, showing that heart rate variability, which is a great way of telling how well your body's adapting to stress, that we'll see this actually balance out with correction of what's called vertebral subluxation. Okay? Vertebral subluxation is where your spine is either misaligned or shifting out of alignment or not moving properly, creating a stress on the nervous system and putting the body into a state of disease. Okay, and so what do we do about all this? So we create this thing called the Gut-Brain Healing Action Plan, and this is how we do it. We start out with number 1, working on the inflammation, working on the nervous system. If you're not working on the nervous system in the world we live in today, if you're not doing things like chiropractic care, mobility exercising, all the different stuff I listed before, and a bunch of other things, then you're missing the mark. If you're just doing supplements and nutrition, you're missing the mark. I love it. I love eating healthy. I love talking about eating healthy, but I would never tell someone that's all you have to do. It's a piece of the puzzle, and some people it's a bigger piece of the puzzle than others, but I know plenty of people that do this part right are very, very unhealthy. We got to start with the nervous system, good chiropractic care, making sure your spine is moving properly, making sure it's in the proper alignment and position and unsubluxated. Then we move on to the right nutrients and minerals in reducing stress on our body from the foods we eat. That's why we call it power and fuel, and taking things like supplements that can help with inflammation. Digestion, in terms of we're working to heal and seal the gut now, and then we move on to detoxing the body when you're at a place that we've given it enough time for your body to be in a healing state. So this whole process takes time. It's not something that happens overnight, but we start with the nervous system. Okay, what is vertebral subluxation? Like I said, it's a shift in alignment in your spine where it's not moving properly or out of alignment, and the most common area is going to be the upper part of the neck, the atlas, the top bone in your neck. It's the most movable area. It's also the part where you're going to see the most damage from the stuff we do in our life. It affects the neurophysiological function and how well our body is functioning and healing. Okay, and remember that vagus nerve is right up in here. It goes right through down here. Okay, also the blood supply to your brain goes through that top bone in your neck, which is why we get such good results with migraines. When you're subluxated, it creates negative neuroplastic and autonomic changes affecting the vagus nerve, decreased brain stem or brain blood flow, increases inflammation, cerebral spinal fluid alterations happen with this, and then mechanical spinal cord tension. When you stretch your spinal cord, you put your body into a stressed response. Okay, we talked about that again with the symptoms. And here's 3 studies right here just on chiropractic care and upper cervical, upper neck adjusting, and how that immediately will affect the parasympathetic response and calm the nervous system. And so I talk with patients, we're not taking a bone that's out of alignment and putting it back in alignment. We're getting full range of motion into your spine and helping to balance out your spine and nervous system so that you have a good parasympathetic response. All right, I got another story for you guys. I hope you enjoyed the stories. This is Charlie's story. She's a little girl here on the right. And I love this family. They're patients in our office. They've been just a blessing to have patients in our office, in our office. And I love her story because it's a direct response when she starts getting adjusted to being constipated. She grew up most of her life constipated, did the Miralax and all those things a couple times. I think they ended up in the ER. This is her Google review. Ended up in the ER, having to get, because she was impacted. And so you can imagine, I mean, not only is it painful and having to deal with that, but how many other health implications are going to come from that if it's not fixed? I mean, it's just intense, right? And so she started care in our office, and I think her dad was under care, and then Charlie came in and started care. And we took x-rays, same thing, loss of curve in the neck, she had subluxation in her atlas, and we started to adjust Charlie. And after her first week of just getting chiropractic care, she started using the restroom, and as long as we stay consistent with her doing stuff at home, she gets regular chiropractic care, she's not constipated anymore. She's not taking the drugs anymore. She's not on Miralax anymore. She's using the restroom. And it's because we balanced the nervous system. It all goes back to that. So I love those stories. So what causes this vertebral subluxation? What's the actual root cause of it? And you guessed it, it's stress. Physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress. So car accidents, injuries, falls. 8 miles per hour in a car accident, by the way, according to the Yale study, can cause ligament damage in your spine. 8 miles per hour. So physical stress, too many chemicals from our food system and our environment. Mental stress, being emotionally stressed out affects it. So, but it all goes back to these stressors, and that's why I say if we can remove the interference to your body, get your nervous system functioning well, and reduce the amount of stressors in your life, your body has a better ability to heal. How common is this idea of vertebral subluxation, that the spine isn't moving properly and locked up? Well, they did studies on this. 1,000 infants were checked in the first month of life. 80% were found to have vertebral misalignments of the upper neck. 1,250 infants in this study were evaluated during the first 5 days of life. 90% of them had suffered birth trauma and strain on the neck and cranium. 10% actually had severe trauma. And it's because we go against gravity when we're doing the birthing process, and so most of us have these issues of birth. They have something called KISS syndrome, where your body can actually, I'll talk about it here in a second. I got a picture of the KISS syndrome. So we got the developmental medicine and child neurology. The birth process, even under optimal control conditions, is potentially a traumatic, crippling event for the fetus. Spinal cord and brainstem injuries occur often during the process of birth, but frequently escape diagnosis. This was according to Abraham Talbin, a medical doctor. So this is KISS syndrome. It's what it looks like, but this is from spinal trauma at birth. Can cause torticollis, C scoliosis of the neck, asymmetry of the skull, asymmetry of the motion of the limbs, asymmetry of the glutes, glute muscles, hypertension, shoulders pulled up, and you can see what it says here. But this is what we see. Kids come into our office, we adjust babies from the really day or week that they're born, and throughout their life, making sure that their nervous system is at a good functioning place. Now, you become subluxated early on. We have car accidents, injuries, sports injuries, falls, all the things that happen. We live a stressful life, and we don't do anything about it. We are on a computer all the time. We text message a lot. We go from this nice curve in the neck to multiple subluxations where you lose the curve. This is a good majority of people that come in. Phase 1, you've lost the curve in the neck. Your spinal cord is being stretched. If it stays that way, it moves to phase 2, which is where you actually get disc degeneration. It's not an age thing. It just takes time from here to here. And then phase 3, where you got full disc degeneration. Phase 4 is, most people are going to surgery at that point. And so when would be the best time to figure out if you're subluxated? At birth. There's no way around that. And so we start with that, and then making sure that we're getting the curvature and structure back in if someone has moved into these late phases. Dr. Alfred Bragg, medical doctor, showed that the loss of the cervical curve stretches the spinal cord 5 to 7 centimeters. And he said that pulls the brainstem into your spinal canal, putting your body into a state of disease. Do you guys remember where the vagus nerve is? Pulls it into the into the spinal canal, and puts your body into a state of disease. So where's the disconnect? Why aren't we looking for this from day one when we're born? Why isn't this a part of the norm system? Why is dentistry a normal? Everybody knows goes 6 months or 9 months or whatever it is to get your teeth checked. Even though there's very little studies on that, that's just what we've been told. But we know there's tons of studies on this. We know that if you have subluxation, it creates neurological issues, and it's a very common thing for kids to get when they're born, which means we all have, at some level, have these spinal problems. So where's the disconnect? It's because we're not taught it. That's it. It goes against the kind of natural medical or normal medical system, and it's the opposite of how we think. But I can tell you, just from being in practice for the last 15 years, it is an absolute living this chiropractic lifestyle, we call it, meaning we're getting chiropractic care weekly, we're doing proper nutrition, we're exercising, we're taking care of the things that help our body be healthy, and we're reducing the amount of stressors in our life. And when you do that, your body heals itself. This study here, really cool, shows that chiropractic care getting adjusted changes the glucose metabolism, lowers stress levels, increases quality of life, and decreases muscle tone, decreases salivary amylase, which is enzymes. Really, so essentially when we get adjusted, it has an impact on the brain. Another study that we know that 20% increase in activity of the brain when chiropractic care is a part of care. Okay, so this cool slide here, and this is just overall benefits that we see with chiropractic care. I mean, the list goes on, really. I mean, the top, if I just was to say from experience, the top things we'll see in our people's first re-exam is they're sleeping better, they're digesting food better, their cycle is better for women, energy's up, and then typically the symptom they came in for is disappearing, like back pain or neck pain or tingling in the hands, sciatic nerve issues. Those are the majority of people come in with that because that's just kind of what people think of with chiropractic care. But our referrals come in with gut issues. Our referrals come in because the patients know we help with these things. Our referrals come in with autoimmune disease and things like that. And so it's pretty cool. So I want you guys to listen to this final story here, and then we're going to close out. But just hang on to the end because you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get a lot of this story, but also I got something to share with you at the end.
So about 8 months after Crosby was born, we started thinking about trying to conceive a second baby. And probably tried about 8 months, just naturally tried on our own, started to wonder if there was something going on. So we went to the OB. The OB was a little unwilling to do anything other than some blood work, just told us nothing's wrong, everything's normal, just keep trying. So we took that information, felt a little let down, pretty frustrated. I started looking into acupuncture. We did acupuncture for probably 3 months, going weekly, twice a week, doing acupuncture, changing diet, did less intense working out, tried all sorts of things. So a year after we'd started trying, we decided to go to a fertility clinic, and at the fertility clinic we ended up doing medication. We ended up doing 2 cycles where we did intrauterine insemination, and neither of those resulted in a viable pregnancy. So I continued to look online. I was looking for more natural ways of trying to conceive. I didn't want to focus strictly on medication, or we weren't in a financial position we could look at doing IVF. So, online I started asking other women in similar positions, and chiropractic care became a common theme that I was seeing. So reached out to a good friend of mine, and she referred me to Queen City Health Center, and that's what brought me to Queen City. So first visit, came in, got my x-rays done, and all the fertility issues aside, just seeing my x-rays, seeing that my neck was in poor alignment, my hips and my spine were in horrible alignment, I went home from here and I talked to my husband, and I just said, even if we can't get pregnant right away, like, my health is what I want to focus on. Even if we weren't having any fertility issues, which we still were, just now seeing this and having that visual of saying my neck is messed up, my back is messed up, my hips are messed up, and seeing all the different systems in the body that were then being affected, which I could see at the time, resulting in my life. He was on board. He said, let's go ahead, let's focus on this.
Mama,
Let's get...
Mama, you are messed up.
Yep, they were messed up.
Why?
So my husband was on board, and we just said, let's take care of this. Let's focus on getting healthy first. I started coming. I got on my treatment plan. I was coming 3 times a week. For 2 or 3 weeks, I came 3 times a week. And it was, first of all, I noticed that, like, my period symptoms were almost none. My digestion had improved, which was something I didn't actually really recognize as an issue, but it was something that I then noticed was getting better. I was still working out somewhat, and I was having good relief from any back strain. My recovery was going well. But of course, the most impactful thing was I came back, I think, at 4 weeks, and they asked me to do x-rays, and I had just found out that we were pregnant. So just, within 2 weeks of starting full-time treatment, we conceived and resulted in this little one. So just overall, we so quickly met our goal, and it was just, I never hesitate to say that it really did change my life. Then, we started coming to the inflammation seminars. We've done the webinars online. We've done the healthy family workshops, looked at our diet, looked at our toxins in our home. We've looked at working out in relationship to your menstrual cycle.
So I cut it short there just because it goes a little bit longer. And the point is that she came in and was able to get pregnant, and that's what I love about what we do. It's sort of miraculous, but it's really just the body is made to heal itself. We call it miracles, but it's really how God created our bodies to work. And we're simply just removing interference. We're letting your body have its optimal ability to heal itself. Some of the things that we do differently in here than maybe some chiropractors you've been to in the past is not only are we adjusting, and we have different techniques based on the person, but we're also working on correcting the spine through retraining the postural muscles, certain exercises we have you do here and at home, teaching you lifestyle changes at home. We're going through nutritional protocol or things with you, supplements, and just other things to help balance your nervous system, because it all goes back to that. If your nervous system's functioning at 100%, your body's healing at 100%. And if you're not focused on that, then it's simply just going to be problems in the stressful world that we live in today. And so if we know that the nervous system controls everything, if we know that we've been through multiple different physical stressors in our life just based on the stuff I told you about birth, then really it's not a question of if you should get your spine and nervous system evaluated and take care of it on a regular basis. And it's not a question of if chiropractic care is for you or not for you. It's just about when are you going to do it. It's just about whether or not you're going to do it. And it's really just about who's the best fit for you. It's not about whether or not chiropractic care is, because I've just been doing this long enough to know that everybody should be getting chiropractic care. It's about who's the best fit for you. Who are you going to connect with? Who's going to be that person that you want to call your chiropractor, and the person that's going to help you with your health long term. Being a part of Think Country, we'd love to be that person, that team for you. From our staff to our patients, we have over 400 5-star reviews, I think close to, if not the most, in Charlotte. From our customers, our patients are happy, and so we have long-term patients. I have patients that have been with me since 2009. I bought a clinic in 2010, so they were here before me, and they're still patients. And so how does this work? So for coming into our clinic, initially we go through a consultation. I'm a huge fan of taking the time to talk and learn and figure out what you've been through in your life, the physical, chemical, and emotional traumas and stresses that you've had, what you've experienced and tried to do about it, and then how can we come along to figure out what's causing the problem and how to help you with it. We do a postural evaluation because we can learn a ton about your spine and nervous system through your posture. We do motion. We do, how well you can turn your neck. If you can't turn your neck all the way to your shoulders on both sides, you're subluxated. That's just one of the main signs of it. So we do palpations. We actually feel your spine, see what's happening, look at the muscle imbalances and things like that. And I check all the joints. I actually check the shoulders, the wrist, elbows, everything, because it all plays a role in this. Then we take x-rays, and those x-rays will tell us, do you have a curve in your neck? Have you lost the curve? Do you have disc degeneration? Do you have any past fractures? Do you have degenerative changes that are causing irritation to the nervous system? And so on, genetic anomalies, things like that. It also shows us how much inflammation you have built up in your gut. You can see a lot of that through the x-ray as well. Okay, and then we do a report of findings, and we say, here's what we're finding. Here's the full evaluation, here's what we're finding, and here's what I recommend doing about it, and then go from there. We say, okay, let's get started. And we do really good with I believe do good with our financial plans. We don't do tons of insurance and things like that, because it keeps us from being able to deliver the care that the patient needs. So in that state, we discount our costs for time and service fees, and we make it affordable for most everyone that comes into our office. Okay, so hopefully that sets you up for right thoughts there. Our initial consult, exam, x-rays, everything we do in our clinic on that first visit, this whole setup here, that's anywhere from $250 to $300. But anyone from Think Crunchy that's watched this webinar, I mean, you had to make it to this point. If you call in and say, I made it to the end of the webinar, I want to come see you guys, we will do that for consult, exam, including x-rays at no cost. Okay, normally we do a consult and exam to get to know you, see if we can help, but x-rays are $40 a piece, and then so on, anything else. So, but at this, if you call in and say, we heard you Think Crunchy, and I want to come see you guys, then we'll honor that at no cost. You got to tell us you saw us in the end, okay? So I hope you guys enjoyed the webinar. We got a lot out of it. Remember, your body has an amazing ability to heal itself. It does not matter what symptom you have, what disease you've been told that you're living with. Your body can heal. The only variable is removing interference and time to heal, okay? So you can go on our website at queencityhealthcenter.com, schedule an appointment time there on our calendar, and we look forward to seeing you and helping you. Bring your whole family. We'd love to help your whole family. All right, you guys have an awesome day, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.